If you watched my previous Starlink Mini setup video, you already know that I run mine using a simple USB-C cable and a power bank whenever I need to move it off the cruiser. In that video, I clearly stated that I didn't see the need for an expensive, dedicated Starlink Mini battery. My current setup has worked very well to date. However, shortly after that video went live, PeakDo reached out and asked me to try their LinkPower 2 battery pack. And I found that very kind of them, but also got me really curious. Why would PeakDo offer me a battery to try right after I publicly said I don't see the need for one? Did they see a flaw in my setup? Are they that confident that their battery pack will actually improve how I use my Starlink Mini? So I gladly accepted the offer as a challenge to myself because I wanted to see if this little battery could actually change my mind about dedicated Starlink batteries. I want to truly see if a dedicated Starlink Mini battery can justify the premium price over my current low budget setup, or if they're nothing more than glorified power banks. To get the answers I'm looking for, I'm going to carry out the most in-depth review and test of a Starlink battery pack. I'll be taking an in-depth look at all the features and how it operates. I will measure the true capacity of the battery using a very accurate electronic load tester, so we can compare the power output and runtime directly to my existing power bank and setup. And finally, because I often camp in the rain, I'm going to subject the PeakDo LinkPower 2 to a realistic rain test, even though it isn't advertised as waterproof. I want to see if it's actually usable in all kinds of realistic weather. If it can survive my torture test and meet my expectations, I will happily admit that I was wrong in my previous video, and that this dedicated Starlink battery is in fact a superior way to power my Starlink Mini. So make sure to watch right to the end of this video to find out. What's up everybody, I'm Eamon and welcome back to Bush Business. In my previous Starlink video, I said this, and you might now be wondering why I'm recommending an external power bank like this instead of buying one of those fancy dedicated batteries made specifically for the Starlink Mini, and it comes down to two things: affordability and versatility. There is a link to that video down below if you haven't seen it yet. But I've been using this setup for over a year now and it's worked pretty well most of the time. When I'm within a reasonable distance to my land cruiser or trailer, I can power the Starlink straight from my 12-volt battery system using my long USB-C cable. And when the tree cover is too dense and I need to venture out further, I use my portable battery pack. The major limitations of my current setup is the cable clutter from the long cord, which can be a trip hazard, and the fact that I can't use it in the rain because my power bank is not weatherproof. I have seen many fantastic reviews online showcasing the features of the PeakDo LinkPower battery pack, but I've always had my reservations about its actual performance. A lot of reviewers just unbox it, slap it on, read the claims straight from the website and then promote it. And yes, it looks like a great product, but this channel is about data and facts, not promotion and advertising. So getting my hands on the LinkPower 2 is very exciting as it allows a small YouTube channel like mine the opportunity to put this product through its paces in a way that I can't do if I actually paid for it, because I wouldn't be able to afford to destroy it during the test. But now I can push it as hard as I need to so I can get the results on how it performs in real life and see its limits. And if it breaks during the test, it has broken for a good cause, so we can learn its limitations and weaknesses. Therefore, before we get stuck into it, I need to give a quick disclaimer. As I already mentioned, PeakDo did send me this battery after seeing my last video. However, PeakDo are not paying me, they're not telling me what to say, and they have absolutely no input on today's video and results. As a matter of fact, if they knew what I'm going to do to this battery, they might not have sent it to me to begin with. Therefore, if you appreciate this kind of honest testing and reviews, please do me a favor and hit that like and subscribe button for me. There are also links in the description of this video to everything I'm speaking about and everything I'm showing, and using these links is an amazing way to support the channel, and you also do get some discounts. Let's get stuck straight into business. Starting off with the unboxing and the battery itself. The battery pack is much smaller than I expected. It is very slim, lightweight, and packaged nicely. I was actually surprised at how small the box was when it was delivered, to the point where I thought it was the wrong item. Inside of the box, you have the PeakDo LinkPower 2 battery pack, 2 cables, and a small instruction card. One of the cables is the weatherproof DC to DC short plug, which goes from the battery pack straight into the Starlink Mini to power it. The other cable is a magnetic charging connector, which we will have a closer look at later on. Looking at the PeakDo battery pack itself, on the front face there is a small but high quality LCD screen. It displays important data like charge levels and shows exactly what the battery pack is doing in real time for both charging and discharging. And I love my gadgets and data, so I absolutely love being able to see my power draw, my input, as well as the time remaining until the battery is completely empty or full. Also, you can charge this battery pack while it is still powering the Starlink Mini at the same time. And I was pleasantly surprised to see that the LCD also displays the input and output power separately rather than the total average power consumption when you are charging and discharging at the same time, which is a very nice surprise. The screen also displays if the power output to the Starlink Mini is on or off. That is the DC output port on the rear of the pack. There is a single button at the front of the battery pack with a green LED ring, and from what I've discovered, it has three main functions. A single press will wake up the screen so you can check your data. Holding the button for 2 seconds will make the LED light blink twice, and that indicates that the DC output to the Starlink is switching on or off. It is basically your on-off switch to power the Starlink Mini. Hold the same button for 10 seconds, and it's going to completely shut the battery down for long-term storage. The LED ring on this button pulses green when the DC output is powering the Starlink Mini, so you know if it's being powered or not, so you don't waste your battery. Finally, on the front, there are two more connector ports, a high-speed USB-C port and another DC port. The USB-C is a dual input and output port, and that means you can use it to charge the PeakDo battery pack itself, or use the battery pack as an external power source to charge your laptop, mobile phone, or tablet. If I'm not mistaken, this USB-C port can also deliver power to charge your external device while the PeakDo battery is running the Starlink Mini at the same time, so you can charge your phone while the PeakDo is still powering the Starlink. The DC port beside the USB is for input only to charge the PeakDo battery, so you can use the original Starlink cable if you don't have access to a high power USB charging system. On the opposite end of the battery pack, you will find another DC port, and this port is strictly for output only to power your Starlink. And there is a very clear warning on the sticker that says if you use that port to charge the battery pack, you might damage it. So you have to be very mindful of that. On the underside of the battery pack, you're going to find a small cover protecting a magnetic charging port. This is a very handy feature that I absolutely love, and I'll explain later why in the video. So all up, you have one dedicated output, two dedicated inputs, and a USB-C port that handles both input and output. From my testing, all three inputs charge the PeakDo PowerLink at the same maximum speed of 65 watts by default. You can, however, enable 100 watt fast USB-C charging by entering the Bluetooth app in the expert settings. But there is a clear warning that enabling the 100 watt charging feature is going to greatly reduce battery lifespan. Charging the PeakDo LinkPower 2 with 100 watt USB-C will give you a recharge time of 1 hour from 0 to 100%, which is very quick as you do get a claimed 5-hour runtime. It is worth noting that the power bypass function only works when using the dedicated DC output to power the Starlink Mini on the rear of the battery pack. You can't power the Starlink Mini using the USB and try to charge the Starlink Mini at the same time with any of the other inputs. But when using the dedicated DC output and the little DC to DC cable that is included as part of the pack, the battery pack will take incoming power from any of the other three ports to simultaneously charge the battery and run the Starlink at the same time. Once the PeakDo battery pack reaches 100% charge, the system is going to automatically switch into bypass mode, where it's going to power the Starlink directly from your external power source, keeping the PeakDo battery safely at 100% charge until that external power source is depleted or removed. This is a brilliant feature that you can use to maximize your solar input during the day, saving your battery power from when you need it when the sun goes down. Other features on the underside include a threaded hole for use with a tripod. In my case, it works perfectly with my quick release plates, as you can see right now beside me. And right next to that, there is a QR code. Scanning this QR code allows you to connect to the battery via Bluetooth for remote monitoring and control. The app also shows battery status, power draw, and input charge, and you can also access advanced battery settings. The Bluetooth app is also very useful as a remote control for the Starlink Mini and whatever you decide to connect to the USB-C port. Maybe some LED lights or a bug zapper outside while you're running the Starlink Mini. The remote control function is incredibly convenient to turn off the Starlink without having to climb out of your tent to physically unplug it. A feature that I'm sure we will all appreciate on a cold, wet winter night. I also absolutely love that this Bluetooth connection doesn't require you to download an app, as it is completely browser-based. There is no need to make an account or have another password to remember. I can also confirm that it doesn't require a live internet connection. It works perfectly with airplane mode switched on my phone. To connect via Bluetooth, all you do is scan the QR code and enter the passcode displayed on the battery screen. Aesthetically, this is a great looking battery pack. The metallic cooling pads are a very nice touch, although from my testing, the battery never heated up unless I used 100 watt USB-C fast charging. So perhaps this is more for discharge efficiency or as a safety measure when you're doing fast charging. Once connected to the Starlink, it maintains a very slim profile. It doesn't add much size or weight to the Starlink Mini, and it still works perfectly fine with a tripod without being out of balance. Let's now talk about how the PeakDo power bank actually performed in my testing. First up is the battery discharge tester. I decided to run the test at 20 volts and 1.5 amps, and this works out to be 30 watts of power draw, which is the upper end of what the Starlink Mini will use in the real world. Because these are lithium batteries, the voltage does not drop until the battery is completely discharged, so I configured the tester to switch off when the voltage reaches 18 volts. This ensures that we get very realistic and conservative runtimes for the Starlink Mini when using these battery packs, rather than relying on the hypothetical best case scenarios which manufacturers claim. The PeakDo LinkPower 2 advertises a 99 watt-hour capacity, and in my tests, it provided 94.7 watt-hours of power, with a total runtime of 3 hours and 10 minutes in the test. In comparison, my existing power bank claimed a capacity of 92.5 watt-hours from new, and it provided 79.8 watt-hours of power in the test, with a runtime of 2 hours and 42 minutes. Crunching the numbers between the two batteries, the PeakDo battery provided 18.6% more usable power and 17.2% longer runtime, an increase of almost 20%, which is a considerable improvement over what I'm currently using. When compared to the claimed power advertised by the manufacturers, the LinkPower 2 experienced a minimal capacity loss of just 4.3%, where my existing power bank suffered a much higher loss of 13.7%. To be fair, it is expected, given that my power bank is several years old and heavily used. However, it does also give us a great benchmark for any future battery tests. As I mentioned earlier, a huge benefit of the PeakDo is that it can remain connected to the Starlink and power the dish while being charged at the same time. And this got me wondering, can I use both battery packs at the same time to get a longer runtime on the Starlink? So I tried, and it worked perfectly. The PeakDo battery management system prioritized using the external power bank first, both charging the PeakDo battery pack and running the Starlink Mini at the same time. And once the external bank was depleted, it seamlessly switched to powering the Starlink Mini using the PeakDo battery itself, effectively giving me the full usable power of both batteries. And after 6 hours of running this test with the PeakDo partially depleted, I connected the main power charger to the PeakDo using the magnetic charging plug, and the PeakDo recharged right back up to 100% with no interruption to the Starlink. This testing simulates a situation where you might use a solar or an external power supply to top up the PeakDo after partially discharging it. It's also a good test for the battery software and programming to see if there are any bugs or errors when you switch between various inputs and outputs. The software and the battery management system worked flawlessly in my testing. I genuinely enjoyed using the magnetic charging connector, and I believe it is a fantastic safety feature. If anyone trips over the cable at camp, it simply disconnects the magnetic connector without pulling the Starlink down or tripping the person over, which is perfect for kids, the elderly, or anybody else because accidents do happen. And because it switches instantly to the battery when the cable is disconnected, your internet connection remains completely uninterrupted, and it's very easy to plug it back in. You just clip it in. I did test the PeakDo as a standard battery pack as well, and it easily and quickly charged both my phone and my MacBook Pro. This shows that it is a competent power bank in its own right, even though it is slightly larger and odd-shaped compared to normal power banks that you buy online. All of this testing and data means nothing if the PeakDo battery can't perform in the real world, and the biggest limitation of my previous setup was the rain. My power bank is not waterproof or water resistant in any way, whereas the PeakDo LinkPower 2 is IPX4 splash resistant. Realistically, no one is going to be splashing their Starlink, but there is a very high chance it's going to get rained on. And the last thing anybody wants to do, especially me, is run out of the tent in the pitch black of a cold night to put the Starlink away when you hear rain outside on your tent. So a realistic test isn't a splash test, it's going to be a downpour. To replicate heavy rain, I set up my garden hose at maximum flow, and I set it to an angle pointing directly at the battery pack to represent wind and avoid the Starlink dish from acting as a shield to protect the battery from the water. The PeakDo battery survived the water test, being soaked continuously for over 3 hours with no damage at all. And I carried out the capacity testing we spoke about earlier in this video after the water test to make sure it properly survived and there was no water inside it. To me, this is the biggest advantage of this unit over my current setup. Previously, I would only use the power bank in good weather during the day, leaving me without internet access if it was parked under heavy tree cover with bad weather. And this does get annoying as you are stuck inside of a tent with nothing to do and no internet if it's raining. With the testing now complete, what is my overall verdict about this Starlink Mini battery pack? Was I completely wrong in my previous video? Well, using the PeakDo LinkPower 2 in perfect conditions or for short intervals isn't going to be life-changing for me, but it absolutely provides much greater flexibility in 3 specific situations that will be life-changing. Situation number 1 is when it's raining. I can quickly pull the Starlink off my roof rack, plug the PeakDo battery power link in, and move the dish to a clear spot for good internet access, all without messing around with long wires or even worse, risking water damage to my power bank or my equipment inside of the canopy if I'm accessing the power from there. Situation number 2 is when it is a bright and sunny day and I'm at camp for the whole time. I can use the PeakDo battery pack to power the Starlink and use the magnetic cable adapter to keep the PeakDo sitting at 100% charge using my solar. Then the PeakDo battery will only take over once the sun goes down, and this gives me ample internet time between sunset and when I get sleep without draining my Land Cruiser's 12-volt system overnight. Because I can switch off the Starlink Mini from my phone using the app, I can stay inside of my tent comfortably without having to get out and physically plug the Anderson plug out. Situation number 3 is for quick overnight stops, when I just need reliable access for the internet without the hassle of setting anything up. I'm tired, I've been driving all day, and I just want to go to sleep. I can easily move the Starlink off the car without any cable clutter, and then turn on my internet, do some work, watch some YouTube, whatever it is, and then go to sleep, without having to find a clean dry spot on the ground to put my power bank. And this is very, very handy when the last thing you want to do is fumble around in the dark or the cold. While it doesn't apply to my specific Land Cruiser setup, PeakDo also make a fantastic suction mount system designed for vehicles with a sunroof. Pairing the PeakDo battery and a sunroof mount with that magnetic connector is an absolute winning combo. You don't need to have a roof rack and an expensive roof rack mount to use your Starlink Mini when you're driving. You can simply stick it onto the inside of the sunroof glass using their suction mount and either run it straight off the battery itself or even better, power the PeakDo from the car itself. And then when you reach your camp, your battery is already at 100%, giving you 5 hours or so of runtime. You just pop it off the glass, throw it on a tripod, and take the Starlink wherever you need it, especially if you're not camping next to your car. This will work a treat for my family as our other vehicle is actually a Tesla with a huge glass roof. And using the Starlink means that we don't need to use our phone data when the kids stream their shows on the road, saving us a bit of money and saving us from the headache of them arguing during the whole trip. In terms of negatives, the best that I can find during all of my testing over several weeks is that the Bluetooth recognizes the unit as a LinkPower 1 instead of a LinkPower 2. Hardly worth mentioning and complaining about, but if you have OCD like me, it's something you're going to notice. And it's not much of a flaw as opposed to a wish. While I completely understand that the airline carry-on limit is 99 watt-hours, I do wish that PeakDo would make a high-capacity version of this battery for those of us who just drive and don't need to fly with it. Other than that, I think that the PeakDo PowerLink 2 is a fantastic product that has truly impressed me with its usability and performance. PeakDo have certainly set a very high benchmark for any Starlink battery reviews on this channel to live up to. Do I believe that the PeakDo can replace my existing setup? That is a tough question. It can easily replace it to a very large degree, but I don't think it will. I believe that the PeakDo battery will complement my existing kit rather than replace it. My existing power bank will act as a secondary battery for longer runtimes in good weather. My cables will work as they do now to charge the PeakDo from my 12-volt system or solar, and my tripod and quick release plates are still a perfect fit. The PeakDo in its own right is a fantastic power bank to use for any device charging beyond just the Starlink Mini. So was I wrong in my previous video? In this case, I must accept defeat, and I was very wrong. Funny enough, it isn't because of the battery aspect itself. The fact that it can power the Starlink is not special to me, I can do that anyway. What is special, however, is the user interface. The fantastic information on the LCD display, the weatherproofing, the ability to recharge the PeakDo while it's still powering the Starlink, and especially the remote control. These conveniences as a collective package in my eyes are worth the investment and the cost of the PeakDo LinkPower 2. And it makes me wonder why Starlink themselves haven't developed a built-in battery pack for the Starlink Mini. Once you do try this battery pack, you feel as though the Starlink Mini is incomplete without it. Before we wrap it up, please do let me know if you have tried the Starlink Mini, and if you are using a battery, let me know how this PeakDo compares to it in the comments below. Again, a reminder that there are links and a discount code in the description below for you to check out if you are interested in this gear. And don't forget to check out my other videos if you have enjoyed this one, as you might like them too. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.